Welcome to the Sellernomics podcast, sharing valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. And now, here is your host, Rob Stanley.
Hey everyone, Rob Stanley here with the Sellernomics podcast. And today I've got Brandon Dupsky from Backtrack, and he's talking about how to recover Amazon lost profits. There's some good information here. Him and I were just talking before we jumped on, and definitely pay attention. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Hey Rob, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really good information that Brandon has. Backtrack, which we'll get into a little bit more later in the podcast, is a great service to kind of help you with some of these things. But let's jump right into this. Product launch failures. I know from talking to you that you've seen a lot of these. And what are some of the things that you've kind of learned, and maybe some tips you could give Amazon sellers regarding some of these failures and things they can do to kind of help themselves out and not lose more money, so to speak?
Sure. So I'm in the same camp. I've made a million mistakes myself over the years. And so when I share these examples, I feel for you because I've been there, done that myself in different ways and different forms. And they always say, you can learn more from your mistakes than you do from your failures than you do from your successes. And so my goal is to help sellers, learn from everybody else's mistakes or failures, so they don't have to duplicate them or replicate them. So that's one of the things I feel like proud that we do over at Backtrack is we see so many mistakes. And the reason we see so many mistakes is because we help online sellers, Amazon sellers mostly, but Walmart and others, with their customer returns and their liquidations. Okay, and so both of those scenarios highlight problems that sellers have made. And so every day I'm getting emails, requests, because the names, out there, Backtrack's name's out there pretty widely now, and we're well known. And they're like, Brandon, my friend told me about you. We have a problem. We have inventory that Amazon has turned off because of various reasons, and we need to liquidate it quickly. Or we have problems, this item, they make mistakes, and this item needs to be pulled because it's not selling very well, or it's got issues. So we get those mistakes into our facility. I see them, all the time, and I kind of pay attention to that. My purpose is one, I want to learn. I want to help the seller, so maybe the next batch they make won't be a mistake. So let me share some of them that I've seen recently. Okay, we see them all the time. These are some that are recent and some common themes that maybe we see over and over again. So one of the mistakes, I know there's a ton of great courses out there. There's a ton of great educational material, groups, conferences. There's a lot of good ones out there. But when I listen to what they're talking about, there's one area I feel like gets missed a lot, and it's packaging. Everybody talks about the product, how do I get high-end search, how do I get people to, how do I make a unique selling proposition, so on and so forth. But a lot of these courses don't talk about packaging, and I'm a logistics guy, so packaging might be, closer to home for me. But packaging is one of those mistakes that a lot of sellers don't spend enough time on. You might be in another country and you see photos of it from the factory, and so on and so forth. And you can see extremes on both cases with packaging. So for example, some people overkill it, overbrand it, overbuild it. We've got products, and maybe I should have brought some in for examples. I could have, but they're in the warehouse. But products where the product is good, but they spent 5 times more money on the packaging. And so therefore their costs have went up, and then that kind of creates a floor for what they can sell the product for and competitiveness, and they get outbeat. They get outbeat because they overspent on packaging. And everybody, I hear this all the time. I have a premium brand. I need a great, and so that's great. But if the packaging doesn't allow you to sell the product, you're going to have to overcome that in other ways. And so we've got a lot of liquidations just totally due to packaging. and over packaging. So that's an example. And so with packaging, and then the other thing that I see with packaging, it kind of goes hand in hand with weight. So this is another thing a lot of sellers and a lot of courses, a lot of groups never talk about. And what's the weight of your product? And so basically, here's what I see a lot. Okay, they sell an item that weighs less than 1 pound. Great, because that's the cheapest you can get for shipping. Now, a lot of people don't think about shipping because FBA does it, but FBA still has to ship the item, and there's still expenses, and they still use U.S. Post Office. Amazon only ships 1/3 of their own packages to the end consumer. UPS and U.S. Post Office and FedEx still do the other 2/3. Anyway, so that cost doubles. It basically doubles from 1 pound to 2 pound when you're under or over. And so I see an item that's under 1 pound, but then they add all this huge packaging or heavy packaging or extra padded packaging that wasn't necessarily. And then they go over a pound. Now their cost of shipping doubled. And again, so sellers are forcing their product costs higher for over packaging or crossing thresholds on shipping costs. And those two things is what we see a lot, because now their items too expensive. People who have done alternative packaging options can outcompete them. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's really good. And I mean, obviously, what you're talking about is very important. You already had somebody trying to call you, so during the podcast. So no, that's all fun. That's always a good time. But Brandon, what about I see this a lot on a lot of the forums. I hear it a lot also. People are getting these requests to remove inventory. There's obviously, we know there's a lot going on in the inventory space with Amazon. They're lacking warehouse space. They're trying to build more. They're also kind of things that aren't moving. They're kind of like trying to push those people out of the warehouse to either bring new products in or bring in more of what is selling. So when somebody gets a request like that, a lot of FBA sellers, they work from their house. They don't have a warehouse to really send an item to. Maybe describe a situation that you've had where somebody's got a remove order, so to speak, from Amazon. How did, what was their issue they had? How did you guys handle it? How did you help them out?
Yeah, I see that every day. And Amazon's kind of, forcing the issue in this case due to all these constraints right now on the supply chain and the warehousing space. And it's crazy. It's just insane. And so I probably have 3 emails in my inbox today to answer on that same issue. So you have different reasons, right? Your IPI score could be going low. And so your inventory scores are you need to trim your inventory so that your scores can be better and healthier. And so that's one of the reasons that Amazon does it a lot. And then you have just slow selling. This SKU now, you used to have 10,000 of them. Now you can only have 1,000 of them. They just trimmed it. I got that email this morning that I saw. It said Amazon trimmed my maximum inventory level. I need to send them to you today. And so we get that. And so because we have the ability to move that, okay, so we have the ability to receive that inventory in on their behalf. We're a third-party warehouse, mostly on customer returns and liquidations. And so we can receive that inventory in, and then we can help them sell that inventory on other channels. So that's what happens a lot, is a lot of these sellers are Amazon focused because of FBA and the biggest marketplace and all that fun stuff. And so they were only selling on Amazon. So we're multi-channel. My company's multi-channel. I've been selling on eBay since 1998, so I know how to. And we sell that inventory on eBay, on Wish, on Facebook. We have a local retail store and other marketplaces. And so that's how we help them kind of ease that pain. We can take that in and then resell it. And sometimes eBay hits other buyers. Facebook hits other buyers, other markets that don't actually buy on Amazon all the time. And so this is allowing the brand reach. It helps them get their brand awareness out in other places, and it helps them recover money from inventory that they can't sell themselves anymore.
Yeah, that's good information and definitely helpful for customers. Now, another issue that you actually brought up to me that I wasn't 100% aware of was like labeling issues, and you touched a little bit on that, but let's go into another scenario. Maybe again explain what the Amazon seller had issues with when it was regarding labeling or maybe a packaging issue, and how did you guys help resolve that?
So we've got product that we're relabeling today. And in this example, it's a bigger item. It's play mats for kids. And we've got 5 pallets of them right now. And this example is simple. It's a simple example. Their third party warehouse or the freight forwarder or their factory, whoever touched it last before Amazon, put the wrong label on the product. So they have multiple variations, such as color, such as size, such as style, and they put the same label on all of them. And so they're getting negative feedbacks or too high of returns because the wrong product's in the box. Amazon doesn't know. They just scan the label. And so we're relabeling. Actually, I can think of 1, 2, 3, 4 examples in my warehouse right now, only because of that reason. Mislabeling from the factory or the 3PL that had it before. We have another one with blankets for blankets that have like an animal on. And then we've got another one that clocks and so forth. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So just mislabeling mistakes, we relabel. So they send it to us, we relabel it, then we palletize it back up, send it back to FBA. And we do that pretty fast. Other reasons could be like they want to change the SKU that they're selling under. We see this a lot. So they might have the package under or the product under one SKU and they want to send it under another SKU into Amazon. Well, Amazon won't do that for you. So you have to bring it in, relabel it, send it back out. Similar scenario for us. And it is something we do often as well because of various reasons. I'll give you another example of a product launch failure that was a relabel is we have, I wish I had an example, Pop It fidget things, toys, the little rubber things with circles that you pop them. Well, we've got 4 or 5 pallets of those in our warehouse right now from multiple sellers, not 1 or 2, multiple sellers, different styles, but they use the word Pop It on their packaging or on their SKU, on their title, descriptions, their photos. And if they did their homework, this is what you should be doing, do your homework. They should have learned that the word Pop It is a trademarked term that somebody in the earlier days said, I'm going to trademark this before I sell them to the world. And everybody who tries to use my word, I'm going to sue them. So these sellers are having lawsuits now for using words they should not be using on their packaging, and they're sending them to us to Rebox. So they'll go out and get because the product's very universal, but the packaging can't say the word Pop It, and so we'll rebox them, relabel them, they'll resell them under a new listing.
Yeah, that's that trademark issues. That's definitely something that you should look into before you ordered these or decided how you were going to sell them. We have obviously seen that before, and actually have talked about this a little bit before too. One of the things I do want to talk about a little bit is too much inventory. Obviously there's a lot of cost involved in keeping your products in Amazon's warehouse. We just had Michael White on from Smart Scout that was doing their FBA calculator, had some suggestions on size, dimensions, and weight that you can make changes to that will save you some money. So I'd like to kind of get your side of it right after this quick commercial break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics.
Yeah, so head on over to Getida.com/Sellernomics. Get your first $400 in free FBA reimbursements. Once again, I got Brandon Dupsky from Backtrack, and we're talking about how to recover Amazon lost profits. And right before the break, I was just asking him a question regarding too much inventory. And, if you're running into a situation that you have too much inventory and you're paying a lot of money in the warehouse for maybe product that isn't moving or selling. And I also mentioned we just had Michael White on from Smart Scout that was kind of talking about dimension and weight issues and possible ways to change that. So Brandon, to give a little more specific on this, let's say you have a product and they happen to be using Smart Scout and they find out that, hey, if I remove this small little, 0.1 of a pound type thing, or 1.1 of an ounce to get it under, let's say 3 ounces instead of being at 3.1. And hey, maybe there's something in that package we can remove. It's not really going to make that big of a difference. Is that something they could send to you, or give me another scenario like that?
Yeah, so we would consider that a rebox or a rebuild scenario, depending on the case, right? If they want us to just rebox it, then it's rebox. If they want us to take it and put parts together or take parts out, it would be a rebuild. And so we do that occasionally on the rebuilding. We have one company that they have a product where, okay, it's customer returns in this case, but it's an example. Their customer return product always comes back either missing parts and components, and the box is always damaged due to weight. This is a heavy item, and so they send us replacement boxes from the factory and replacement parts. And so we will rebuild that package for them as they come in, and then they're able to resell them what's called merchant fulfilled. And so you have FBA, where Amazon ships it, and merchant fulfilled is when you ship it, so to speak. And so they can resell it as a refurbished on the same listing, and then they just give us the order and we ship it to the customer. So we get about 50 to 100 of those type orders every day, where it's us sending a refurbished item, so it was rebuilt, back to the customer, to a new customer as a refurbished item. So it helps them recover that lost value. And in your scenario, it would be very close, where they're actually fixing a problem and recovering their scenario. So then they could send it back to FBA, or they could have us send them to new customers, one at a time.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've kind of seen a lot. You've obviously, I know that Brandon's been around in the industry for quite a while, but what are maybe some of the crazy things you've seen returned? And feel free to kind of give us an example of what you've seen returned and maybe what had to be fixed or done to get that either back sold, or maybe it couldn't.
Yeah, so I mean, just yesterday we see crazy things all the time, but like Amazon, this was when I did a video on Facebook actually, where we received a box that's probably 55 inches long, and inside of it were 3 smaller boxes, and inside of those were 3 small items. So this was this was Amazon sending back, and this was probably Amazon's doing, not the customer in this case, but Amazon wastefully packaging, and also just what the freight cost would have been on that oversized charge from UPS. I can only imagine the cost on that, when it could have gone in a smaller box. You see that sometimes. We get empty boxes. We've gotten, we didn't receive it. We saw some people returning used baby diapers. Oh my gosh, I'm glad we didn't get that one back.
Wow.
And then we've seen this, we have a customer or a client out of China that does electronics, and they do high-end, $400 to $600 radios that go inside of cars. And we see this all the time, where the box that comes back is inside their original box, but inside the box is the OEM factory radio, worth maybe $5. Or a competitor's item that was not even close to the quality. And so people will, buy this $600 radio, they will put it in their car, and then they will send back, their old radio and get their $600 refund, saying not as described. So we see that often, because we get a lot of volume in this account, and so they send us a lot of returns. We see that scenario often. We get the wrong item all the time. Like either the customer sent back the wrong item, or Amazon labeled them wrong and sent us the wrong item after the fact. But the wrong item all the time, we do a lot of pillow covers, and we get the different model and different styles. And so it's the switcheroo. I mean, there's words out there that, for all these different type of returns, whether it's fraudulent or accidental or what. But definitely there's a lot of waste and a lot of fraudulent activity that people are getting away with, and the sellers are the one usually paying the price.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was staying on that sort of return subject. Um, I think you mentioned to me that you guys sometimes can also help sellers on learn why they're getting some of these returns. I mean, fraudulent's one thing, but I'm sure there's other scenarios or reasons why people return things, and you probably get to see them all the time since you're getting, some of the inventory to look at. Maybe go into that a little bit on what some people could do to maybe help with scenarios you've seen on returns and maybe try to limit that.
Yeah, so that's a good point. We do, and this is an area that I'm kind of proud of, or something I feel good about. Again, it's helping the sellers build a better business. I love helping online sellers, chase their dreams, be the entrepreneurs, be successful. I love that. And this is an example of where I feel good about doing this. And we do this often, so I can give you lots of examples of companies where we'll receive a whole bunch of product in, and then my techs, I have a team of technicians that open the product, inspect it, photograph it, they check all of the accessories, and they actually enter a lot of this information into our online dashboard we have, and the photos are visible. And so we document, the products coming in. And so I can actually go in, from my computer and see this, but my techs know firsthand, they're touching the product. And so then we'll go back to a seller and say, hey, we found something that's very common, right, that you might not know about. We'd love to share it with you. And we'll do video calls, and we'll show them, because they're in Australia or China or the UK or Canada. They're in other countries most of the time. And we'll actually show them, here's what we found with your product. And we'll show them, besides the photos, we'll do a live video call with them and say, here's what we found, here's what we think. I've got a lot of engineers and technicians on my team that kind of think like engineers, and they'll be like, okay, here's what I would do to change this product or to change this packaging to do better. And I can give you an example. We've got a company that does, it's like a wall hanging, I don't want to give, I can't give too much detail, but it's like a wall hanging piece with, that's thick. And it's fragile on one side. And so the packaging was just insufficient. The packaging was smashing the product, bending it. And so we could show them, hey, we pull it out, and here's what it looks like. And it's the packaging. Okay, fix that. And so, they're taking down notes. Next batch, we're going to fix this. And then also just the design on the product. We're like, well, this is kind of thick and heavy, and you're paying extra in shipping because of that. So maybe you can make it thinner because it really doesn't add a lot of value in our opinion. It's still your product, you decide. And they're like, holy cow, we didn't think of that. And totally, we could make the packaging, we could shrink this piece. It would not change any of the value. It would lower the cost to produce it, lower the weight to ship it, increase the spacing in the packaging, win, 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 win. And so that would be an example of where they would not have, had these ideas if they haven't used our service. And I've done that a few other times with a few other companies just within the past couple of weeks, where we'll just do a video call, show them what we're thinking. We just, like today, actually, I've got an email of 23, returns and the exact technical, reason, because they wanted a summary of why those returns are coming. So I think that's a huge value add that most people don't think about when they start using our service at first.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great service. And I mean, one of the other things we're going to talk about, we're going to take a quick break here, but one of the things I want to also talk to you about is liquidation. A lot of times people get into situations where they either, it just didn't sell as good as they wanted it to. They're closing their business. Let's hope that hopefully they found another product that's doing success, and they need to get rid of the ones that are maybe not as successful. But let's cover that right when we come back from this quick commercial break.
Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics.
Yeah, so head on over to Getida.com/Sellernomics. Get your first $400 in free FBA reimbursements. Once again, I'm here with Brandon Dupsky from Backtrack, and we're talking about how to recover Amazon lost profits. I think it's a great partnership with Backtrack and Getida, because we're both kind of in that same role of trying to help people save money and get money back, which is always something to look forward to. So right before the break, we were talking a little bit about liquidations. Sellers sometimes get in a situation that they say have several ASINs or SKUs, and some of them just aren't selling, and maybe it's time to liquidate those and move on. So Brandon, that is something you help with. Why don't you go ahead and give everybody a little information on what you guys do when it comes to liquidation services?
So I see this often again, and this one I don't like to see. So this scenario happens a lot for us is we have new sellers. And so new sellers come into the market, they go through all the work of trying to launch their very first product, and they launch their first product on Amazon, and they might have put 10,000 units in stock on the very first try, and they only sell 200 or something, not very many, and they're like, I can't get high in search, I can't, the economics are not working, I can't lower my price anymore, I'll be losing money, Amazon wants to charge me over, storage fees, and they're, so on and so forth. And so I see that so much, and that one's painful for me to see, because I see these entrepreneurs, who jump into something, and their first product is a failure. And so, why is that? Why, I try to learn what's going on before I help them. But why is that? Usually it's just they did not do, their homework on the economics of what it costs to sell on Amazon. I heard somebody at a conference that I was in, that you were in, that we were both at in Vegas or in New York, and the seller and the presenter said, you've got to spend $10,000 a day in pay-per-click to get to the top of search on some products. I'm like, holy cow, I don't think a lot of new sellers hear that, They don't have that money sitting aside, for their product to be successful. And they start with 10,000 units. I'm like, come on, don't bet the farm, on the first try. Learn small mistakes, small, successes, build, learn and grow. So we get those. And so when I'm looking at the products that are coming in the seller's accounts and we set them up, I'm like, oh, this is their only item. They're liquidating their only item. And so they're probably done. And so we do see that a lot. We see a lot of churn and burn, I guess, unfortunately. So at that point, it's the same thing I was talking about earlier. We bring them in. We then resell it on eBay, on Wish, on Facebook, in our retail store. If there's a lot of product, we have wholesale. We can sell pallets to companies and retailers. So, for example, this was a neat example. So I've got somebody with a premium brand, and they asked me to liquidate 11 pallets of one of their products that it was a great product. It just does not meet the economics, again, on Amazon. And so they didn't want to spend more money to get higher in search and so on and so forth. So they're like, okay, but they had other products. They have, a wider catalog. They want to just liquidate these 11 pallets, get some money, and then move on to the next item that they're working on. And the neat part of this is I found a buyer, it was a retail store. And so what's nice about this is this person is trying to build their brand awareness. And now one of their products, which is still a great product, and it had all of their branding and packaging on it and so on and so forth, is on the shelf in a retail store chain. And so I'm like, well, you might have lost money on this because we had to liquidate it and, and so forth. But your people are learning about you. You got an insert in the box that they can go find your other items. They might like, the theme that you're going after, and so they'll buy your other items on Amazon. And so that was one of those examples that I thought is a win-win-win, where they did get their money back, they got the product out of the warehouse, and they still got to expand the brand awareness.
Yeah, that was great. I appreciate that information. We are going to wrap up here in just a smidge. I want to talk to Brandon a little bit more about a little bit of his background and why and how he came to start Backtrack. Unfortunately, it would probably take an entire show to go through his entire past because he's got 23 years of e-commerce experience. Hence why him and I hit it off so well, and we had tons of great conversations every time we meet. But Brandon, kind of give everybody just a brief of your background and what brought you to bringing Backtrack on board to help customers out, and then also go ahead and talk about the different services that Backtrack offers. We kind of covered some of them, but just kind of go over them for everybody.
Okay, so I got my MBA, my master's degree in business, so I'm a business guy. I worked in the logistics field before starting on my own. So I knew warehousing, surplus inventory, logistics. So that kind of gave me insight into the pain points in regards to surplus inventory. started 23 years ago on eBay. So on eBay, it was the pioneer days. So that, I used to get requests, and I used to sell and list some of the craziest items. And if we have time, I can tell you some of these crazy stories because they're fun. But so I've learned, how to sell things in the very early days, and we were helping companies in the early days, like Rubbermaid.com and Dell and Compact and and Overstock and Buy.com. I used to help them liquidate. PayPal used to be one of my customers, and so I've been in the space of liquidations and customer returns for a very long time. My story, just fast tracking, from starting off, I built the largest company on eBay in 2003 and 4, but then I went out of business in 2006. So huge, amounts of success, huge amounts of failures, big failures, and so forth. And I can tell, like I said, tell stories forever. I've done the private labeling, I've done the speaking, gig around the world. I've done, trade groups and so on and so forth. And I love the e-commerce environment, the people. All the relationships that you build over the years. And so I've never wanted to get out of this space. And so 3 years ago, I was getting hungry again. I've been doing the comfortable, hey, private label, work from home in your pajamas, outsource everything. I did that for 16 years. Took my family on vacations around the world and kind of enjoyed life. But now I wanted to challenge myself. I'm tired of kind of being lazy. I wanted to run again. I wanted to do something that has impact in the space that I love. And then 3 years ago, I kind of identified, here's the big problem in the world of e-commerce that nobody's really paying attention to. And that's customer returns, and liquidations kind of falls into the same boat. But customer returns is customer returns is a $400 billion problem in the US. Online customer returns, not retail store. Online customer returns is a $400 billion problem. Now, Amazon sellers, customer returns is a $40 billion problem. And so Amazon sellers, third-party sellers, and this is growing at 22% per year. So after this year's over, it's going to be almost $50 billion. Another $10 billion a year in this problem is getting bigger and bigger. And there really was no solution. Nobody's focused on this. So I'm like, this has got to be solved. I feel like I'm the guy to do this. I was doing it for PayPal and Dell and Rubbermaid and all these large corporations in the day on eBay. I know e-commerce. I know the entrepreneurs. I know the space. I know logistics. I'm the guy. I'm going to solve this problem. And so this is like me chasing my dream of helping online sellers. I say we're on $1 billion mission to save e-commerce because this is a problem that's killing small sellers. But also, the other thing is the environment. The thing I don't talk enough about is how much customer returns is hurting the environment. And so this is a topic that we have to do a better job understanding, and then we have to do even a better job explaining how what we're doing here is helping the environment. Because the products that are going from the customer to Amazon to us, those products used to go in the landfill in most cases. They would go in the landfill. And so now we're repurposing that product, giving it, extended life. And this product's going to another customer, and the seller benefits because their brand is out in another home. The product with their logo on it is being used by somebody, and hopefully they love it and they want to buy a new one someday. So then they go to Amazon the second time. So the brand gets awareness, but they get money back into their pocketbooks, which is all good for all the aggregators that are buying companies now. So if you can save $1, they can multiply that, and you actually make $3 or $5 or $10, depending on how you look at it. And so we're helping them make more when they exit their company, but also we're helping the environment. And that's the piece that like I said, it's on my to-do list to do something to bring that to the surface more and more over the next 3 to 9 months.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I love the mission, love the statement you just made about we got to keep stuff out of landfill. And that's obviously one of the things that Backtrack is helping with. Brandon, let's give everybody, if they want to contact you or get a hold of Backtrack or learn more about you, where do they go, and how do they do that?
Yeah, so there's 2 websites that you can do. www.back-track.com if you're watching this. If you're listening, that's harder to do. You could go to www.gobacktrack.com. And basically, you can find me there. There's a form on the homepage. It's very simple. Give us your contact, and I will contact you back. I look at each and every one of those still. It's a lot of work on my desk, but I love to see the seller, contact them, tell them what the problem is. They can also email me directly at sales@back-track.com. And it's all, it's renew, rebuild, repair, replace, resell, rebox, relabel. We do all those things basically to extend the life and get that money back in your pocket.
That should be your tagline, the Re-Company.
The Re-Company, yeah. Re-commerce.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the Sellernomics podcast. Once again, Brandon Dupsky, co-founder of Backtrack. That's www.back-track.com. You can get a hold of him there or go learn more about the services that he's offering. And always great seeing you and having you on the podcast finally. I really do appreciate you coming on.
Hey, Rob, it's been my pleasure. I appreciate this. I love talking with sellers. And I look forward to seeing you at the next conference we're both at.
Absolutely. Have a great one, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, Getida. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.